Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Belvidere Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted with the Star Ledger and Express Times and submitted to the Town Clerk of the Town of Belvidere on January 14, 2021. Due to COVID-19, mass will be required at this meeting when proper social distancing cannot be maintained. Board members will be able to participate in the meeting virtually via conference call, and the meeting will be live streamed for members of the public that do not wish to attend in person. The public not in attendance can email comments to be read during public participation to rtjalma@belvideresd.org. Public comment on agenda items needs to be received by 7 p.m. and have public participation number 1 in the subject line. Public comment that is not related to agenda items needs to be received by 7:20 p.m. and have public participation number 2 in the subject line of the email. I need a motion and a second for a motion to pursuant to bylaw 9310 to suspend certain meeting procedures as described in the notice of meeting, specifically to authorize board members to participate in the meeting virtually via conference call if desired. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Shell.
Mr. Blount? Here. Mrs. Costantino? Here. Dr. Lovett?
Here.
Mrs. Duckworth? Here. Mr. LeVar?
Here.
Ms. Powell? Here. Mrs. Scott?
Here.
Mrs. Smith? Mrs. Stephan?
He needs to be let in.
Mr. Smith. Sorry.
Mr. Ty?
Here.
Mrs. Williams? Here. Mr. White?
Here.
And 1 moment for Mr. Smith.
About 15 seconds. That was already up and running.
Mr. Smith, we got you?
He's muted at the moment.
Okay.
His name is there.
I think we're all here.
Count that. All right, so we're at the point in the meeting for public participation. Anybody in the audience? Count that.
Can I take this off while I'm standing here?
Uh,
No? All right, that's fine. I realize this is part of your superintendent's report, but I was lucky enough to be here when the New Jersey School Board's representative talked about the strategic plan. And as Mr. Smith referred to, we had a strategic plan that was done with all the stakeholders involved, and it was done in a conference kind of a setting, and it included PTA, sports, everybody was included to design the mission and the statement for the school. And I think it's appropriate to bring everybody on board. So I hope that the board will consider doing that the next time the strategic plan comes around. And a question about this Linked It. Is that this program that you referred to when we were talking about the scores and the rating of the school that was going to evaluate where we were? I can barely see.
I'm going to say I think so, because I'm not sure if I got your question completely.
Prior to the referendum, when we were talking about the school rating and the test scores and things like that, and how we were going to assess going forward, and you said that you had contacted a consulting
Correct, yeah, this
agency,
is
and I
the group,
just
yep.
wanted to see if this was the one.
Yeah, this is the group. So Ms. McKinney is going to report out on that tonight, where we are. We actually just did our second round this week, so she'll just give you the starting points, and then next month we'll do the where we are.
And is that something that would you be considering doing as a separate agenda for the whole community? Because we all have a vested interest in it.
Sure, can certainly do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Count. Anybody else from the audience have any public participation? Michelle, you got anything from emails?
Mrs. Stephan, the email that we had received from an applicant, is that something that should be read this evening publicly?
Is it related to the agenda?
No.
Can I give you the second?
Yeah, we probably should get John's ruling on that, so it would be second. Because
Okay.
It's definitely not part of the agenda.
I did not receive anything else.
Okay. If nobody has anything, we'll close public participation and move on to agenda items or correspondence.
I do not have it.
Superintendent's report?
We're going to start out with a presentation from, on Zoom, we have Ms. Jen Harkness from New Jersey School Boards, just to talk a little bit about their policy services as a follow-up to our meeting in December from Strauss Esmick. Jen, are you there and can you hear us? Not Jen Scott, Jen Harkness?
Hi,
Yep.
I'm Jean Harkness.
Jean, I'm sorry.
I haven't figured out how to put my name in my window yet with Zoom. We use WebEx. So I have a little presentation. I was under the understanding that you wanted to hear about policy services, meaning the dues-based services.
Correct.
Want to hear about that, or were you just interested in the fee-based services?
In the fee-based services.
Policy writing services.
Yeah, policy writing services, please.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a very quick overview. I have a little presentation of your dues-based services, and then we will launch on to a brief explanation of our fee-based services. Currently use our file code system, so you enjoy the pleasures of the most concise policy manual system in the state. So you'll probably have about maybe 30% more policies than the other system. So I'm just going to share my screen and give you all an overview, okay? So the host has disabled the participant screen sharing thing, so I can't share my screen. So who is the host?
I'm gonna make you a host, Gene, and then when you're done, you can put me back in the host and see all the screen sharing.
Okay. There we go. Okay. All right. So your policy department has two main people in it. Steve McGettigan, who is the policy manager, and myself. I am a policy consultant. And all right, we have a whole bunch of resources on the website. You just have to go to our homepage, click on our services, and then click on all the services that you're interested in. In this case, click on policy. Okay. Well, our biggest function is to maintain the critical policy reference manual. This is what we consider to be a collection of about 200 policies that we feel are the legal minimum that are necessary for boards to have. We create policy language, model policy language, and that language is vetted by our legal department, so our work is overseen by legal. Each document in the critical policy reference manual has an annotated legal reference document with it, so that if you want to know about the laws that went into the makeup of the policy or the case decisions, etc., that would be in the annotated legal reference. When we work on this book, we normally do it because of law changes and important commissioner decisions or case law, things that affect the policy. And when we change anything in the critical manual, critical policy reference manual, we publish it on the policy update list. So you would be alerted to updates to policies through the policy update list, as well as I usually do an announcement in school board notes, which is our newsletter that we send out weekly. And also, you do have the ability to join the policy update alert system, which means the updates will be emailed to you directly. These are all your dues-based services. that you get regardless, you know, of whether or not we wrote your manual or even if you're in our manual system. Okay, we also publish, we also have a book of job descriptions, so we have sample job descriptions. That is also online under your login. It's for members only, so you have to log in to have access on that. And just if you are interested in job descriptions, when you go into the online manual, you don't see exactly what you need. We have a clearinghouse associated with this manual, and we develop job descriptions upon request. So if you don't see what you need, make sure you email me, and I will get you what you need. You have unlimited access to policy consultation. We try to get responses to you within the same day. I always figure there's somebody out there who's contacting me who needs to get something done, so I don't want to be the holdup. So I usually drop almost anything I'm doing to answer inquiries as they come in. We have a policy clearinghouse, so we collect sample policies from all over the state, sometimes all over the country. So if you're interested in a policy that is not in the critical policy reference manual, again, you will contact us and we will send you samples so you can to inform your policy process and policy development process. We do research. So if you're looking into a policy and you need somebody to help with the research and get you resources, you can contact us for that. We actually draft policy language. We draft job descriptions, and then you have a benefit of you can submit your manual for a wellness check, meaning we will review your entire manual and send you a report with suggestions for updating it. So it's a 23-page chart where we do note in the comment section on the chart what exactly may be missing from a policy that might not be as up to date as it could be. Okay, so as I was saying, you have the ability to have updates online and updates emailed to you. That's also part of members only. Okay, and just as the association in general, we keep you informed. We have a number of publications and trainings and everything online. I'm sure you all get the School Leader magazine, which is a wonderful resource. School Board Notes is something that's great to review every week because that'll really keep you up to date on what's going on the education front. Okay. We have other dues-based services, not just policy. You have field service, and we have legal consultation. So if you do not have access to the board attorney and you just have a general question of a legal nature, you don't have to incur expense. You can contact the attorneys of the day at the association. They're there to work for you. Here's labor consultation. If you're interested in affecting on a state level legislation and things like that, we have a whole government relations department that can walk you through that. We have an educator in residence if you have questions regarding curriculum and the educational program. We also do consultation with regard to sustainability programs. Okay, so we like to pride ourselves on quality work that we do quickly, being responsive with ongoing support for all boards. Now, if you do make the decision to switch your policy system, this does not affect your dues-based services, and I'm very familiar, so Steve, with all the major policy systems out there. If your manual's online, we can work within your manual to help you. I don't know, in terms, I know the company has different levels of service, and you have to pay for who has access to their consultation. But remember, you don't have to pay for who has access for ours, or you've already paid for it because it's dues-based. So just remember that you will still have our support regardless of what manual system you use. Okay, so these are our these are our fee-based services. So we have customized policy writing services, which means that you would submit your manual and we would go through it and update it. And that update would include correcting any file code errors that you made, updating all the legal references, updating the content. We basically go through the manual and we keep anything that you feel that you need, that you have added over the years above and beyond what our template is. So if you had discretionary policies, like for example, a live animals in classroom policy, we will keep that and we might even work on it and update it. I usually like to put in content related to the health of the animal, rules for kids with regard to washing hands, etc. So we review it all and we work from your book. We don't want to disable or undo any of the character and the decisions that you have made for your board book. This service for Belvidere could be purchased for $6,500. And that is mainly because you're already in our file code system, so it makes it that much easier for us. We, through Board Docs, offer online manual publication, which makes the manual available to the public, gives you a workspace to work in the manual online. So it's a little more than what I see you still use MicroScribe, and I really love that company. They are a publishing company. This is more of a platform where you have the ability to maintain and work on your documents within the platform. And they also offer paperless board meeting services as well. As part of customized policy writing services, we do have model regulations that we've developed and sample regulations that we can submit for board review. So the manual can be fully fleshed out with procedures that implement policy as well. Do you have specific questions about the manual writing services?
Anybody specific? I don't think so. Any specific questions? Go ahead, Doug.
So if we want our policy customized to our school, you're saying that would, for our district, would cost us extra?
Just the manual update part of it. The rest of it, the update alerts and everything else is all dues-based. It's a one-time fee, basically. If we're going to rewrite the whole manual, I'm trying to think. Have you guys had a wellness check lately?
We did it about 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
We'll need to pull that up.
Might be maybe 3, but it's within the last 5 for sure. Took us a while to go through them all.
Okay, so depending on what shape the manual is in, actually the fee isn't negotiable. That's our lowest fee, which is $6,500, and that includes us providing you the manual, updating it all, and usually we work very closely with whoever you designate to be point on the job. So if there are questions to be answered and blanks to be filled in, we do that for you. And then, there is a fee. The online publication for the manual is a separate fee. And that is, I'm not exactly sure, that's $3,200, I think. And that includes putting the manual online, and then it's a renewal fee that is much less. Our salesperson, Lou Shimenti, I had thought this was policy training, so I agreed to take it on. Our salesperson, Lou Shimenti, I will contact him to get in touch with you with the exact pricing and contracting stipulations and things of that nature. So the online manual publication is a subscription, which means there's a renewal fee, which is much less. The setup fee is more because the whole manual has to be put online and reformatted for that. So, yeah, so it is in addition to your dues. But, you know, the other thing is that if your manual is in good shape, you stay abreast of all the updates that we publish?
Yeah, we try.
Okay, so if it is in really good shape, you may not need to purchase that. We could get it all done through the wellness check. I could just send you the policies that need to be updated
Okay.
as well. So, you know, and then also with our customized policy writing services, as a courtesy to all our writing customers, we will refresh manuals. That's not a separate fee, that's all part of fee-based services. So a wellness check takes me probably a week to go through the whole manual, and it's just a little more time to actually, if we've written the manual, to actually just send you your policies updated. So we refresh the manual and go through and correct the legal references and things of that nature as part of the wellness check, which is a use-based services. So we try not to have any add-ons. So your price, if you wanted the policy manual written, would be $6,500, and if you wanted to switch to Board Docs and have your manual in a format that you can work on online, that would be a subscription fee, and that an initial publication would be, I think, $3,200. So it's either $2,200 or $3,200 a night. I'm very sorry, I don't know the answer to that, but there is a brochure on our website for it, so that would also have the prices. I will email that to you when this is over. So you have options because you're already in our file code system, because the manual is online. I can go through it easily enough and identify any policies that you've missed updating. It's a boring but very doable task to just go through the CPRM and cut and paste all new legal references onto your documents as well. So that can be done as well. You should be doing that. When you get an update from us, you should always be subbing out the legal references. So it might not be that you need to purchase anything. We might be able to get it done with just the wellness check. So what I'll say is I'll put you in the bucket for a wellness check, and I'll get to that as soon as I, quickly, so that you can have a better idea whether or not you need to purchase policy services from us, or we can just update the manual together through dues-based services. Any more comments or questions on that?
What did we have done in September, Chris? Didn't we have our manual checked out?
I know we did what we call the wellness check. We did that, well, we've done it recently. I just can't think of exactly. We've done it a couple times in the last couple of years.
I really can't hear you at all.
We thought we had the manual checked out like in September-ish.
The wellness check,
All right, well, this,
we've done a couple. I know that's why, and I can't give you the exact.
I'm logging into work, and I can look up your wellness check.
So the wellness check is
What's that?
going to be for the wellness?
There's no fee for the wellness check.
I do get a fair number of inquiries from Belvidere. You're no stranger to us, that's for sure. If not from you, from your field service rep. Didn't take very long at all on end. Hang on just a sec. Yeah, you had a wellness report done and it was completed in September of 2019. And, yeah, some of your policies are older, 1990 is what that says, but this manual is not in bad shape. It seems like we put it under good news, but 191 discretionary policies is kind of a very large number. So they need to be looked at and assessed as to whether or not they're necessary or can be combined with policies to give your manual a little less bulk.
My concern is we just had this wellness check not too long ago, and apparently we were missing a pretty serious policy. So I'm kind of concerned about the check that we actually get.
Well, the wellness check was done 2 years ago, so let me go through it again. What were the two policies?
What was the name of the policy we didn't
It's
have?
the restraint policy.
The restraint policy we did not have in our manual.
Yeah, that's, there's actually no requirement for it to be for a restraint policy, which means like when we classify a policy as mandated, it means that the law actually says specifically you have to have a policy. So that's something that districts request, because not all districts have trained staff to do restraint. Not all districts need that policy. But we have it. You know, we have any policy that you might need, we have developed it. Like procurement is another one that we've been getting a lot of requests for. So that's part of what we would consider clearinghouse materials, although policies like that we develop, and the attorneys look at. So we do have a number of policy and regulation resources that are available, but not in the critical policy reference manual.
Okay, so
So
then that,
I can send you that policy. It's a policy and a regulation that we developed.
so if we want that service, that would be the fee-based service.
No, that's still dues-based services.
So how do I get that? I have the free service and I need to get it. So what do I have to do to get that?
You email me and request it.
But I'm an electrical engineer. I am not a school boards person. I have no idea what I don't have and what I should have. I rely on your service to tell me what I need definitively and what I should have to protect myself.
Well, you have what you need to protect yourself. If you have staff who restrain students, then you probably should have a policy.
That's what we thought, which is why we put one in. But I really need you to tell me that.
That might be a good thing that might be a good list to make. Yeah, I like to make lists, so I am going to put my mind to that in terms of policies.
I think they can, and we'll talk about it when it comes
What we call discretionary policies that you may need if you do it. But yeah, you know, if usually the way it works with boards is that you're not expected to know everything. Who knows? The person who knows what's missing and knows what's needed in your district is usually the superintendent, because there becomes a need for something, and the superintendent alerts the board that they need to look into policy. In which case, if the superintendent looked into it and said you needed it, you would contact us and we would give you all the resources and help, including helping you draft the policies that meet your needs. But, you know, you're right. There's a list. You know, there are a number of policies that boards need for whatever reason, like that one that I mentioned, the live animals in classrooms. That's a very important policy if you're, especially in the elementary school, which tends to have more teachers bringing in classroom tests. Because you want to have rules that they follow, rules for the children's safety, for the animal safety. So, so that will be forthcoming, that list. And if you have questions, you know, you can always contact me or Steve, and we can address them as well.
Does anybody else have any questions? Does anybody else have any questions for Jen before we let her get back to what she's doing?
So there were 191 policies that needed to be updated?
No, there's 191 policies that are discretionary, meaning that we have duplicates. So we have policies that have never been cleaned out of the policy book, that have been passed before 1990, that have been updated in some version. So that way, when, this is going back now, when they were updated, they weren't taken out. So I know that they use the Strauss estimate. Strauss estimate will say, policy 1, 2, 3, 4 will replace policy 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you pull it out. That didn't happen. So the majority of those, Red and I have looked at them, the majority of them are covered under another policy. So that's when you got to look and say, which policy do you want? The one that's written in 1990, you want one that's written in 2007.
Okay, well, Strauss estimate may take policies out of their books. Their book is well over the legal minimum. You need to know that when they classify a policy as mandated, it is because it covers a law. It's not because it is a required policy. They do things a little differently than we do it. And yes, you know, with regard to consolidating this manual, I think the fee-based service would be a wise option for you. I'm not sure how much customization Strauss Estimate does to the book. They pretty much just convert it into your system and I think basically get rid of your old manual, have you repeal it or what have you, and just adopt the new manual. So, you know, we try and take a more personal approach. And one of the other strengths that I feel we have well above that book is that our books are much more readable. There's a heavy reliance on using the language of the law. There are lots of code citations and things, and where sentences end, add everything in NJ AC 6A:19 whatever, you know? And that is confusing, you know, and your manual is a public document. It should be a resource not only to the board and the administration, but also to your school community. So we do kind of have a care about how we do stuff so that the laws are translated in a way that people understand the language. I have this colleague who retired, David Boston, and he used to always say the policy mantra is subject, verb, object, you know, so that it's clear and straightforward, you know, policy language. I mean, I'm a true believer in what we do. I think we do it well. I think we're cheaper in the long run. You're already in our system. Your boards over the years put a lot of work into your manual, so it's kind of sad for me to see boards give up on their manual and move to a whole different manual. But, you know, that is entirely up to you. And like I said, we are, you know, you should probably ask the question of the other vendor, whether or not you as board members can consult with them directly regarding their policy. And if so, is that a fee-based service? But you should also know that I can help you with that manual too. So, you know, it does not limit you in any regard, with regard to your use-based services.
Well, thank you, Jen. We appreciate your spending the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Please stay with us.
If you want to just turn the meeting back over to us.
Okay.
You're
You
the-
might have to explain to me how to do that. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay. So how do I turn it back over to you?
I got it now, so all you need to do is just log out.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Nice to see you all. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks. That just sums up the difference between, for those that use Strauss estimate. When when we get the policies, we get all of them. It does say recommended versus mandated, but in the situation of the one you're talking about, it was mandated.
I thought so too.
So,
So they missed a big policy that could have got us in a lot of
right, so
trouble.
when she's saying that there's two that we were missing, that was not one of the two. And then when she talked about those discretionary policies, again, they explained it as, these are all policies that most of them predate 1990. So, and there's copies of them. So we go back in and, I've said my piece, I'm all for Strauss estimates and board decision. I think they're great. I think we have never had an issue with policy. And in harmony, I think White Hope would probably agree with that.
I just got a question.
Sure.
Would that be less on you? How
It's
much
not
time
necessarily
would
less
that
on us.
save?
Actually, I think it's better for me because and you can see we have to chase school boards for policies. Where when I get them from Strauss Estimate, I read through them, and then I can make a recommendation to the policy committee. Hey, we don't need this one. You know, like example, you guys made that pre-K districts. If there's something with high school sports, we don't need it. It's nice and simple. But it gives me an opportunity to really read and make that decision. It should be recommended. Most of the time, 9 out of 10 times, the policies are going to the policy committee. You've seen the way they do it. There's options for what you think is best for the district. Because they know that it's not one size fits all. They know that something here may be different than in Hope. So they give you all those different options. So I just think it's a much better service.
Well, I disagree with her regarding the verbiage. I think Strauss Esme is worded very eloquently and very thorough.
Correct.
That's my
I don't think there's ever a point of Strauss assessment when you've asked them for a policy on something or they example of policy where they turn this down and say, oh, we're going to charge them another couple hundred. No, they send them right over. So I think it should be a policy committee discussion as to which way they're going.
Why don't, can you, and maybe Doug, you're on policy, send the policy committee example of a couple
Yes.
examples of the Strauss estimate so we can compare it to what we have from school boards, and then policy committee can decide what they want to do.
Sure.
Did you have anybody else have anything they want to say about that?
The other thing that Strauss estimate will do also, too, just not to prolong the conversation, we spend a lot of time on policy tonight, right, is when they send their updates, they also send a summary of each policy, what it really means. So yeah, so maybe sometimes you want to see all the necessarily the legalese of it, but at least you get a summary of what it's going to be.
Okay, that would be very
I
helpful.
very rarely see policies that are more than 3 pages from Strauss estimate. Rarely. You do get occasionally that's lengthy, but not often.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah, so shoot it over to policy, but if you could send a couple of examples of policy, I think that would be a good thing.
Okay. So I'll just go on with the superintendent's report. You know, this beginning come up in a second. I just want to mention just a couple of things real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. Number one, Mr. White did ask a question about one of the things I sent in my weekly update about the change that the health department had made with regards to quarantine. I think that's a good discussion for continuing business. So we can just hold it up until continuing business, but I think it's worth having a discussion. Second thing is I just want to congratulate Mr. Bartow to get winter sports up and running. We got basketball going last week and this week. So we're really excited about that. Swimming and track, winter track will start next week. So we're sort of getting into the flow of wrestling on the 1st of March as of right now. So I think that was a big accomplishment to get the kids back into some of their curricular activities. I know there's been a big question about snow days, virtual days. At this point, we are pretty much committed that if it's going to snow, we're going to be virtual. Right? We really don't have room in the calendar right now for more official snow days without extending into later June. So at this point, minus major issues with power, things like that, it'll just be virtual when it snows. And I'm saying that because I think we're expecting some snow early next week. And I think that's really all that I had. I thought I had one more thing about it. I'll turn it over to Ms. McKinney. She's done a great job. She's going to do her Lincoln presentation now. We can just talk a little bit about where we are.
While she's logging in, I'd like to thank Brad as well. The communication he put out about the upcoming week for sports, I thought was excellent. A few board members requested, I'm hoping everybody saw it, but I think it really hit exactly what we were looking for. So keep that up, Brad.
Jen, can you see that on your screen?
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm just going to move back here so everybody can see and maybe hear me. All right, so as Mr. Kruba said, and we've been explaining, we have brought in Linkit. And basically what Linkit is an online platform, testing, it's assessments that we can give to the kids. And we started in September. We did the first Form A. They have 3 forms, Form A, Form B, Form C. Actually, back in September, we also did Form C since we didn't do NJSLA testing back in the spring because of the closure. We decided that it would be a good idea, a lot of school districts were doing it, to test the kids with the Form C, what they called B.O.E. Assessment, which would test them based on the previous year's grade level. So all the kids did that, then they did the Form A for this current year, and this week we're doing Form B. The Form B assessment, which is the middle assessment. And then depending on what goes on with state assessments this year, we will do the Form C, hopefully more towards the end of the year if we don't have the state assessments. If we do, then we'll bump it up maybe to like the end of March, beginning of April. But I know the NJSLA testing window is very large this year because of the crazy school year, so we're just still waiting to hear word on whether we're going to have to do that assessment. So just an overview, a couple of things I'm going to go over. The purpose and the rationale for Linkit, I pretty much just did that, but I do have a slide for that. There is an important note that we have stated before. I'm going to show you some of our navigator reports in Linkit. I haven't obviously put everything on here, or else the slideshow would have been 5,000 pages long. There are so many reports on Linkit. It's insane. One of the newer things that we have gotten from Linkit recently are the fingertip profiles, and they are amazing resources for parents. We just have to get more of our information in Linkit so that way we can provide parents with some really nice information, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then the last thing is we did for the teachers during our teacher meetings, we put the skills that the Linkit assessments would be testing the students so that they can kind of see what their kids would be tested on and relate that to their curriculum and the lessons that they teach every day. So I apologize. I know the screen is over that. But basically, what I had said to you, we started this year. The purpose is to gauge the students' level of skill mastery and standard mastery, and then to provide the teachers with that information so that could inform their teaching and potentially any changes that we might need to make to our curriculum. We made it known that especially to the staff, that these assessments in no way negatively affect the students. We just want to see where the students are so that we could help them better. And then it's just another method for us as administrators and teachers, school staff, to make data-informed decisions about our curriculum. If we need to adjust our curriculum based on some of the things that we're seeing, some of the struggles that the kids are having, then that's something that we are going to have to do, and we'll take a look at it during our meetings with the teachers. So an important note, I know we have said this before, one of the things that I tried to stress to the parents in the letter that I sent home was that the Form A assessment assesses the students over the course of the entire year. So a lot of those scores, the initial Form A scores, were pretty low for some of the students, and we didn't want parents to freak out when they saw like a 20%. Because some of those skills just hadn't been taught by that time. I mean, we started school at the beginning of September. We were assessing the kids at the end of September. So in 3 weeks, they weren't learning, obviously, everything that the test was going to assess. But it was nice because it gave the teachers an idea of what these assessments are going to be requiring of the kids so they can look at their lessons moving forward and, teach the kids and help the kids with those skills that they have difficulty with. And then obviously the goal is to see mastery over the course of the assessments. And like I said, we have the Form B going on right now, so once Form B is done, we'll go through those skills. I'll put some comparison charts together, and then we can present that at a future board meeting for everybody. I apologize, I know it's difficult to see, but I know, Chris, you had said, okay. All right, so you will get this, and then when you get it, you could obviously expand it on your screen. But what I did was I gave you some samples of what one of the reports looks like for us, and this is to compare the grade, each of the grade levels. So this is just Belvidere Elementary ELA. I put on there for you, I know our district is small, so a lot of times the school and the district percentages will be the same because there's only one class. But like 4th grade, for example, there are two classes, two ELA classes, so you might see a difference between the class and the district and the school. But you can see there the percentages and where the kids fall. And there is a chart down at the bottom that kind of tells you what the different colors are. So the dark green is exceeding, and then it goes all the way down to red, which is not meeting, and then everything in between. So I did that for ELA. We also have it for math. And again, I just gave you a cross-section of the grades. I wasn't putting all of them in there. And then same thing for the high school. High school obviously was a little bit easier because it's only English 1, 2, and 3, and Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, so I could put them all on one slide. And at the high school level, you'll be able to see differences in the percentages because there are multiple classes of some of the math and the English classes that we have in place. So you'll be able to see those percentages as well. Again, this is just one of the reports. There are so many reports in Linkit. Sometimes, we look at one report and then I end up going and searching and finding another one that is way better than some of the ones that we see. But an overall picture, these are some really good reports. This is the item analysis report that we taught the teachers how to use. And what I love about this one is that they can see the test question. And the kids on their scoring portal, and the parents as well, you can click on the question and it actually gives you a rationale, the question and then a rationale as to why the answer was what it was. So it's nice for the kids that have had difficulty with a certain question or a certain skill. The teachers can go in there and show that to the kids and they can understand why they got that wrong. And then, that could be something that the teacher reinforces in the class. But it gives them a ton of information. It gives them the skill, the standard, the topic. It'll tell them, we use what we call a depth of knowledge chart. So it's a nice little wheel, and it gives them ideas on what to use in depth of knowledge, 1, 2, 3, or 4. 4 is the highest, the higher level thinking skills. And obviously that is what our goal is, to get the kids to reach those higher level thinking skills. But this report will tell you where those questions fit on that depth of knowledge chart. So again, this is great for the teachers. They actually loved this a lot because they can go in and see. One of the other things that I really like that we taught the teachers how to do is they can actually go to the test before they assign it and look at the test and see what types of things the kids are going to be asked, so that prior to the test, if they're doing something in class, they could really emphasize that particular skill or that topic. So this is the fingertip profile, and there's a lot on this. This is a sample, and Linkit put pretty much everything on it. But we can put things on this profile, and we could really make it our own. We could put every year's grades for the students. So let's say, they're in 1st grade, we could put their kindergarten and 1st grade grades from their report card. We can put their NJSLA scores, or for kids who have taken their park scores. You can put attendance, you can put discipline. I mean, there's a wealth of things that we could put. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to overwhelm the parents with a ton of information on one sheet. So we're going to go through it. We want to get some feedback on some of the things that parents might like to see on that, and then slowly add some information to it so that it's not really overwhelming. Chris, did you want to say anything else about the...
So the fingertip profile, this is what we feel is really going to be the most important thing for parents to be able to take a look at. And we're just in the process right now of customizing exactly what we want on there. If you look at this one here, I know they've got the standards versus the skills, and then how they historically have done. I'm a firm believer in that. I don't believe that standards need to be on there. it's the skills. I think it's much easier to understand that a child needs to be able to identify theme in ELA rather than be able to identify ELA 6-214. And I think that's going to be very helpful for parents. This is going to be something that we're working with Lincoln right now. We should be able to email this right to the parents. We're just in the process of uploading all the emails. And then so once we complete those 3 different benchmarks, this can also go home 3 times a year. So you can really get a sense. The great thing is it'll have all the historical stuff on there. So again, as Jess said, if your child's in first grade this year, then next year when they're in second grade, you'll still see what they did in first grade and kindergarten on that report. So it really gives you an idea of what the growth is. I think it's an excellent report for parents, and hopefully that'll be something that will go out right around President's Day, depending on if we get all the emails uploaded and they can get them in the system.
Yeah, I actually have an email out to Dan from Linkit so that he can kind of talk me through how to make sure we get all of this, all of the information in appropriately, so then we can get it out to the parents, because it is something, as a parent myself, I would love to see something like that, because then I can compare across the grade level, and even, as an educator, I could understand some of the things maybe more than a parent who is not an educator, but at least you have it, like Mr. Karuba said, the standard, if you've ever seen standards, they're like 7 lines long and they're very difficult to understand. But when you look at context clues or analysis or author's point of view, those are things that are a little bit easier to understand. So we'll get that put together, and as soon as I can delve into it and make sure it is what it needs to be, we will then get it out to the family so they can take a look at that information. So these are some of the skills that we had shared with the teachers, just so they can see. We actually gave them their grade level skills so they can take a look at it. And with ELA, the great thing about ELA is there are a lot of skills that cross over across the grade levels. So it's something that, they work on year after year after year. When you get to the math, though, math is a little bit different. They do work on different things each year, so it's not necessarily that you're going to see, rounding every year. Once they have mastered rounding, let's say in 3rd grade, then they're working on skills that have built upon the rounding and then moving forward. So we'll see skills that cross over in English, but maybe not necessarily in math, but it's just the nature of the beast with the subject that they're working with. And then we did the same thing with the high school teachers. We had some really good conversations with the staff, and a couple of them had said, wow, I didn't know that the kids would be assessed on something like this, and I don't cover it until the end of the year, so maybe I need to move that up in my curriculum instead of keeping it in May when I test, when we focus on that. So some really good conversations with them. Same thing with math. There's the Algebra 1 geometry and Algebra 2 skills. And then, so where do we go from here? We're going to continue to analyze the assessment data so we can see where we need to go in terms of curriculum, what decisions need to be made to change some of what the teachers are doing in the class. Teachers can use this data to create activities and higher level lessons for their students. And then we're going to continue to meet with the teachers to review the data and then work with them to get that information incorporated into what they are doing on a daily basis in the classroom.
So 2 other things, just for finish. So after we complete this round, we should be able to, for the February meeting, be able to show you what comparisons, 2 comparisons. The data does come pretty quick, so we'll probably be able to really take a look at that next week. The other thing we're going to be able to do with Linkit, I'm hoping for this year, is to determine students who need to move to Virginia honors for high school, things like that. If there's a student who we have request to jump a grade level in a specific area, so I feel like my child is really good in 3rd grade in math, and I should jump in the 4th. You can give that child the end of year assessment, they get a specific score, you can move them up. So it's going to help us in that angle too. The other thing for parents to really look at is when you see that your child's historical scores versus their testing, there might be a little bit of a breakdown. Why is my kid getting 96 in class, but there's only a 2, can't even get close to exceeding expectations? And that's something we are going to focus on, especially after the second time, get a real good sense of what's going on. So we like where we are with this. It was overwhelming at first, and I just agreed with that, but now that we come back, and Lincoln is fantastic with whatever we need. to meet with them for 45 minutes. They'll sit with us and help us go through all this stuff. So when we get to the end of February, we'll really put that presentation out, so you can really see where the scores from where we start. And you can see that when we get this presentation. I'll send it right after the meeting. You can see where everything is, and then when we go back and look at it, you get a really good sense of where the students are. So I think that's...
Any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I just have a question about the EOA. When we did this years ago, writing, there were open-ended questions, and because Linkit couldn't score the writing, teachers had to do that. I don't think this Linkit benchmark scores any writing at all. I think this is all the multiple choice part. So how are we getting the kids ready in terms of writing?
Yeah, you're right.
Are there other benchmarks?
Yeah.
We do 3 times a year, we do a common open response school-wide.
Can't hear you, Chris.
School-wide, we do 3 open-ended responses 3 times a year to assess open-ended, what she's talking about. We do it in-house.
Okay, so then we need the teachers graded at that point.
Correct. Next one is due February 15th.
Okay, did you hear that, Jen?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's separate benchmarks, right, that the teachers are scoring?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, so we're not looking at Linkit for writing purposes, like we're not taking any of their writing type questions.
Correct. And what we could do with Linkit is teachers can actually, we haven't gotten to this point yet, but teachers can upload their own assessments. That'll be something for another time because that goes a lot more in depth with what the teachers will have to do. But that is something that is possible in the future. But I know at the high school, the teachers do writing pretty much on a daily basis with their kids in their classes. So that's where we're at with the writing. But no, we don't use Linkit for the writing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
So the second benchmark test was yesterday during the virtual snow day. Why did we not postpone?
Well, we figured because it was a virtual, because it's an online platform, that since the kids were home, the teachers would have the kids on a Google Meet and they would be able to still administer the assessment. So we'll see with the scores what they look like. We can always take those scores out and reassess the kids. So
I know it's a virtual format, but I just think kids for that important of a test should be in school if possible. And that was just a matter of rescheduling it to another day when we were in person. I'm not comfortable with the results of that test now that it was done virtually.
okay.
Especially having seen, like, walked into my son doing it, and he's doing other stuff at the same time. Like, the kids need to be in school
Okay.
with the teacher, like, focused in the right routine. I'm glad we're doing all this. I'm glad about the first results. I just not comfortable.
All right.
That'll be interesting to see what it looks like. You know, and I know I spoke to Ms. Castine yesterday morning because of similar situations. I'm kind of curious to see if it's, because there's always the argument that maybe parents help their child with the test too, so you might have to do it this way too. So it will be interesting to see. It's something we know. Like I said, Lincoln has been very accommodating. We asked them to reschedule and do it again in 2 weeks. No problem.
And I did talk to the Department of Ed, they do standardized tests that they do. They're going to have students take them from home.
For the virtual kids,
For the virtual kids, not for the virtual kids. Right.
yeah, in-school kids.
We'll take it in school.
Correct.
Yeah, see, our in-school kids didn't have the opportunity to take that in school.
Does that allow you to do an analysis of like what each student needs to work on?
I couldn't hear, I'm sorry.
Yes. So overall, yeah, the answer is yes. So when then jump into what I'm saying is wrong, you'll get the results, right? They're going to go to the parents' actual test results. You can then click on all the results. So let's say it's, I'm going to go real basic here. Like, let's say the question was 2 plus 5 equals what? And something, my kid wrote 6. It's going to, you can click on the answer and it's going to give you that analysis as to why the first 3 were wrong, and when the fourth answer, or D, was 6, why that was correct.
Okay.
So for a parent, and that's one of the things that Ms. McKinney has been working on, and we put some videos together so to show you how to do all that.
Yeah.
Same thing for the teachers have that exact same ability. So you click right on the question. We always,
Well,
as a
I'm
parent,
thinking of more of like something like a teacher's point of view, like at the end of the year, I
now, for this year, you didn't have that luxury, but now next year going into it, you're gonna be able to look at all of your students and be able to say, okay, student A is strong in this skill, this skill, this skill, weak in this skill, and this skill. Opposite of student B, now I can group them differently, I can make sure I work my classroom better that way. I think that's gonna be one of the biggest payoffs.
Is it like a button too? It's not like I have to go through and analyze each kid?
Correct. Yeah, we'll be able to spit it right out and say, Chris group is strong in these three, weak in these four. And then I know that how you work that. And then it's interesting because I think this is, what this thing was saying was, we were working with some math teachers, and this is in some of the other levels, and one of them said, I didn't realize that these skills were taught before they got here. So now I'm spending a month on these skills, and they've already been taught, probably in 7th and 8th grade. So why am I spending another month on it? And I think that's going to be helpful as well. So that's really a lot of what we're seeing. So it's been, it's been a great overall start with this.
Yeah.
But we'll see how things went yesterday. We're starting some good ones.
Okay.
Another question. So will this be helpful in those years where we have those spots where curriculum all of a sudden changes, and now something that you were normally teaching maybe in 4th grade, in 6th grade, you're now starting at the end of 4th grade, and we get those gaps in the mindset in that, a couple years ago where it changed, and then it's like, there's like almost a panic button, like, ooh, well,
Yeah.
so will this be helpful to kind of deter that because we know where they are and we can adjust to what we have to catch up on more specifically?
Right.
We don't have that.
Yeah, so I think what Jess was saying was, whenever they make those significant changes, it's always over the summer, right? So when the staff and the teachers get that first report, and now they see that, oh wow, this skill was taught 5th grade, and now they want it taught 4th grade, I can make that adjustment. Well, that's something we'll be looking to do, make that adjustment, because we're looking at it.
Yeah, there's a report for that.
Right behind it, Mr. Williams.
Chris, how do you accommodate the different skill sets of the different center districts? So you got kids coming in from Harmony, kids coming in from Hope, kids coming in from White. They've all got different skill sets based on strengths of them schools. They're in a mixed class when they come to the high school.
This perfect question, because this is exactly going to help us tremendously because of that. Now, we've always homogeneously just split them up. Now we might be more directed in how we do. We realize that we've got some strong students. We're going to have strong elite students across the board in each district. Now we might be able to better match them up rather than just a wholesale put them in classrooms. And again, I think for when it comes to those honors classes, it's also going to help us because I think the biggest burden on 8th grade teachers is writing those recommendations. And why didn't you recommend my kid for honors geometry when they had an 86 in the class and you don't think they can do the work? Well, if you think they can do the work, try this first assessment or the last assessment, and let's see where they're at. So I think through the high school, it's going to really help us keep the kids group better. That sort of answer. I also know that I know for sure White has jumped on LinkedIn. Harmony has definitely jumped on it. I'm not sure about Hope is not. So that's another angle that we'll have all of the data from the 3 to 4 as it comes to us.
I guess, sorry, the follow-up is how do you accommodate without segregating?
What's that?
How do you accommodate without segregating? So how do you...
So the accommodation is going to be in the classroom itself. I mean, reality is we're not big enough to really truly segregate. We just don't have that many students. But in the classroom, when the school is teaching sophomores and juniors, she can see right away who's strong in this area and who's weak in this area. Rather than traditionally, I'm not putting this goal on the spot, she's right here, traditionally taking maybe 6 to 8 weeks to figure that out, and then having to adjust that. Now you're starting with that adjustment in the classroom. And so that by the time, hopefully, you get to, well, we don't need midterms anymore, but by the time you get to midterms, they're all on equal playing field. I actually hope they're on equal, if we go through this for a couple of years, they're all on equal playing field and they're welcome to board. But now it's going to take some time to see what it goes.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome.
You're going to send it out there, right?
I will send a message out that will.
Okay, so back to our regular agenda. Can I get a motion and a second for policies, items 1 and 2? Motion second, somebody? Second. Questions, comments? Now, both these policies are first reading, so questions or comments would be good. You can also send comments to the policy committee. Because it could be amended for second.
Just to mention, real quick, for policy 5141.2, it's literally a one-word change. If you saw it, it's from recommended to required on the reporting of positive COVID cases. The second one on 9113, it's a little bit more in-depth. I think the policy committee did an excellent job of taking all of what was discussed with the vacancies and putting it on paper. So, if there's any other questions, obviously feel free to ask, but I think we did a good job of getting that all together.
Brian, do you have anything you want to add on the policies?
I think the only issue is whether there's a consensus by the board, whether the interview should be in public or executive session.
Anybody got any strong feelings one way or the other on? I don't know that we agree. I mean, we talked about interviews in private, because deliberations have to be in private. But then we talked about having them do a presentation sort of thing, a 5-minute thing, and then we'll deliberate in private. So I don't know that we actually had a consensus. I don't think Brian did either, so.
I think what we agreed was we were gonna vote, one or the other, but not both. I think that's what we had in the meeting, right?
Well, we can't, no, we're not gonna vote on it. I'm kind of a straw poll is really, I guess, what we're looking for. What's everybody's pleasure? Because you're saying, because I know people didn't hear you, but we're gonna discuss that in continuing business. Presentation in public, discussion in private, vote in public with why you're voting the way you're voting. Okay, that's what Colin has out there.
I'd say 100%.
You agree? I don't think you can do 100% public. I don't think you can deliberate in public. Well, you need to have a discussion as to, because we need to come up with who we're gonna.
If there's 5 candidates.
Right, we need to pick one, and that has to take place in private.
So you have to pick someone before we all vote.
Right, and then you could vote yes or no for that person.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the presentation would be, it's not a presentation,
Right.
The interview.
the interview is in public.
Could be, that's what we're trying to determine. Do we want that public, do we want that private? I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, public. Let's vote on that first part.
We can't vote on anything.
Consensus, consensus.
You
Consensus.
think you'd like it in public is what you're saying.
Yeah, everybody, this
Okay.
is one step at a time.
Does
I'm executive.
you're
I
executive.
feel executive.
I'm Brian.
I think public has more
Public.
people in favor, Brian.
Okay, and for what it's worth, I'm in favor of public as well.
Sorry, I forgot to ask you.
And Jen?
And Jen, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said public.
Okay.
I'll try not to forget you two next time. All right, so then we go off and discuss it in executive session, and then we vote in public yet again.
Because we have to discuss it in executive session.
Correct. And then we have to vote in public session. Those two are have to. Do we want to include the caveat that we state why we're voting the way we're voting?
I don't think so.
That would be a hard no, without asking you to. No matter what you say, it doesn't matter. You got that, Brian?
I didn't. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, we're gonna vote in public, but we don't have to state why we're voting the way we vote. Obviously, if a board member would like to state it, they can feel free to do so, but it will not be required.
I still didn't hear you. You were in and out.
Email them.
Yeah, email me.
I'll email you, Brian. I'll do snail mail.
All right, so interview in public, deliberate in executive, vote in public.
Right. And not a requirement to state why.
Correct.
Okay. But you can feel free to do so if you choose to.
As you should be able to.
Brian knows where. Okay, any other discussions or questions or comments on the policy? No? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Motion and a second for personnel items 3 through 6A. We have an add-on to 6 and then an 6A add-on. So a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Okay, questions, comments?
How many students are in the swim team?
Mr. Bartow, students in the swim team, it's usually, what, around 30?
It was, I believe it's 21 and then 5 from the
26.
26.
Yeah.
My question I keep forgetting to ask recently, is there any coaches that have any family members on the team?
No.
Is this whole track?
Pardon me?
Is this about track?
The coaches.
Yeah. We don't pay our track coach?
Not winter. He volunteers his winter time, we pay him spring. Winter is more, no real competition, it's more getting in shape. It's about, not the right way to say that, you know what I mean? Conditioning, thank you. More conditioning.
Do the other coaches get paid for conditioning?
Conditioning? No, I don't think so. We usually paid the
Do they
coach.
get paid for conditioning outside of?
We could compete, in theory we could compete, this year there's no competition.
Yeah.
They're all indoors, but like if there's a Scotland conference or an SIA, we can't compete, but now coaches don't get paid.
Yeah, he's really doing it to work out with the kids so that when spring comes, they're ready to
But
go.
he's getting paid for track.
He gets paid for spring, yes.
Okay, so make sure he's getting paid.
Correct, yeah. Next year might be something we look into paying winter because I think we will be able to compete more in winter. There's probably more opportunities to do that. Correct, yeah. Yeah, you know, winter track, unless you're in the league, there's not a lot of opportunities. There are some opportunities.
How do our coaching stipends compare to other districts?
Generally on the low side.
So like we discussed the salaries on the lower side.
Mhm.
So we should probably add that as a topic of discussion.
That's a negotiation.
Oh, okay, no. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Any other questions or comments on business item, or sorry, personnel items 3 through 6A? No? Michelle, you got a roll call this one, right?
Yes. Mr. Blunt?
Aye.
Mrs. Constantino? Yes. Dr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mrs. Duckworth?
Yes.
Mr. LeVar?
Yes.
Mrs. Pell?
yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Steffen?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Okay, can I get a motion and a second for business items, agenda items 7 through 11?
Motion.
Second, somebody?
This is yes.
No, we just approved that. That was in the
Oh,
personnel.
that was the first, yeah, that was number
I have a
3.
question. Was that discussing further?
Mhm. It's a position that we've had. It's for the students, specifically the seniors that need to do alternate, say, routes to graduate. That person is in charge of that and has to work with the state basically the entire year to make sure that those kids reach the goals. So they didn't, the easy examples, if they didn't pass their standardized tests and they have to go to do an alternate assessment, the teacher's working with those students. Generally, it's 3 to 4 students a year.
And there's no other stipends or positions that this would overlap?
Correct. There's no other stipends or positions this would overlap.
Because I know we.
Yeah,
last
we went
year.
back on that, and that's, yeah, this is the one outstanding one.
Right,
Yep.
so make sure it's double dipping.
It's not, nope.
No double dipping. All right. Thank you.
So back to business 7 through 11. 7 through 11. Anybody got any questions? I'd like to just understand the Belvidere midget wrestling mat program, what we're doing there. Normally, last time I was involved in this, the midgets bought us mats. Right? So what?
Mr. Bartow, do you want to just explain that real quick?
So we bought the practice mat,
working out. Where are those they don't have a place. Yeah, I was just saying, they always practice here.
I believe since they're not using school facilities, they have increased sort of using farm. Again, if you do multiple things,
Probably asking too many questions now.
Yeah, I think I know where they're going. Huh? No, I think they're going over to us.
Where?
Lunches, that's where they practice. No? No, they're going wherever they practice. All right, any other questions or comments on those agenda items? Okay, I think we're all in favor? Aye. Opposed, any? Abstentions, anybody?
Practice day number 11, check number 22000.
Abstain from 11.
Stay from 11. Okay. Should 12 have been in there?
Yeah, you should have went to
Right.
13
12 should be in there, which is accept the report of the secretary.
and 13.
And 13. Sorry, we got to vote again. Anybody have any questions on 12 and 13? It's my mistake. No?
I don't have a paper copy, can someone tell me what's number 11?
Yeah, 11 is to just approve the bills overall. Approve the bills for payment as follows, monthly bill list.
No, we did 11.
Oh.
12 is what we need.
12 is accept report of secretary and report of the treasurer. And 13 is to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 22nd and the reorganization meeting of January 6th.
I suggest moving them separate.
Yeah, but I just said, we're just going to do 12 and 13. Can a motion a second for agenda items 12 and 13?
Motion.
Second.
Who was the second?
Mr. White?
All right, no questions or comments? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Sorry, there's a line there, so I thought it would. So I abstained 13. Okay, continuing business.
Just to, I had mentioned the health department update and what I had sent out to the board on, I think it was Saturday, I finally sent my update. Just to clarify and make sure everybody understands what that guidance was from the health department. So now if whether it's a student or a staff member is showing symptoms, we do not have to quarantine everybody that comes into contact. So for example, when we go back right before, well, almost 2 weeks before Christmas break, where we had one student that had shown symptoms but had come in contact with every 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teacher, everybody had to be quarantined. We do not have to do that now. We only have to do that for positive cases. That came down, and it's interesting if you saw on NJ.com, it came down last Thursday very quietly. It wasn't made a big hoopla like a lot of those things are. It does give us a lot more flexibility in staying open, but I know Mr. White had shared a concern, and I won't put words into his mouth, so if you want to speak up, Mr. White, but it's certainly about the practicality of it.
My concern, Chris, is, as I mentioned in my email, that kid that knocked out 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is now going to be all those close contacts in school for 3 days.
Mm.
That kid had tested positive. Now we have a whole bigger problem than we had before. We were lucky that kid didn't test positive. The flip side is if the kid did, now we have a much bigger problem than we had in that situation. I'm in favor of keeping school open up. We want to do anything we can to keep in person. And that's my problem with it is we need to find a way to mitigate that risk.
I think, given this a lot of thought since you'd sent me the email over the weekend, I think the one thing that we do have going for us is definitely our health employees. We have excellent nurses. It doesn't necessarily, it's not going to be a catch-all. I mean, hopefully it doesn't happen, but I'm sure it could. I do give an example. I know we had a situation, and I'll use Harmony, where the nurse felt that the student had 2 symptoms, but one of the symptoms was because they were sick to their stomach, so they had a headache. Knew the kid, knew that it was likely not COVID, but we still sent everybody home. Those are the kind of situations where I think there's some discretion to be had by the nurses. That's just my opinion. It certainly should be a full board discussion, but it does make it easier to keep us in the building, for sure. And when we go to if we do go back to yellow, which is probably not too far on the horizon now, the way the counts have been going, that's the way we operate anyway. So.
Chris, I just want to mention the other thing I said to you, which was, the other one I put in the email, which, I mean, the tough part about it is the 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does the board, does the school have the discretion or allow the nurse to reimburse parents for a rapid test so we can make a better decision if we need to make that decision?
Yeah, I think I'd say yes. We have the discussion to do that. I would suggest that, and I won't put words into our nurses. I would say both of them would feel that the rapid test is not a good, accurate test at this point.
I agree it's not accurate, but it's better than 3 days.
True.
It's at least some kind of indication that we can make a decision on, as opposed to no indication. 3 days later, we find out the kid has a positive test, and all those contacts are being all over the school.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they generally go for about $125 a test for the rapid test.
How many times is this happening?
It's a handful. Probably since I'd say the beginning of December, maybe 6 or 7 times. Chris, I don't know. I mean, we really haven't had it in the high school. It's been more in certainly pre-K to 8, but I'm thinking probably about 6 or 7 times where we've had kids that have been in that situation. So
we're looking at less than $1,000.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I say less than $1,000, I'm talking about before we get some kind of vaccination level with the teachers.
Sure.
So really we're looking at probably January, February, half of March, maybe we'll say $2,000, $2,500. The test that maybe aren't as reliable, but at least give us some kind of indication so we make a decision. And I'm still not saying if the kid tests positive on a rapid test, I'm still not saying you have to send everyone. I'm saying at least you can.
Well, you certainly have a result that you would definitely have to do that. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
You have a better indication.
Yeah.
More likely you're going to be negative than positive than what I read. So if you have negative tests on a rapid and you think everything's good, then they're sicker than you do tests that are positive. Now you have the false security of you had a negative test.
But I think we still have to require the 3-day test. What we have is the ability to make a decision on day 1 instead of waiting for day 3. Or at least a slightly better decision on day 1.
How many of these kids that had symptoms that were quarantined came back positive?
I don't think any. Chris, was there any students that we've quarantined that with symptoms that have come back positive? I don't think it's been any. I think it's been the adults we've had none. Yeah.
Can I ask what the change is?
Basically,
We're still in red.
No.
we're in orange. We've always been in orange. We've never gone to red. We go to red, we're going all virtual. Remember that.
Still in orange.
Yep. So keep,
Teachers aren't vaccinated yet.
right.
Now the sudden rules can change.
They did. So, yeah. They changed. So what they did was
It's changed all of a sudden.
so what they,
After just January, all of a sudden it just changed. But nothing else changed.
I won't tell you what day last week we actually got the updated change because you might not be real happy. So what they did was
I just don't, I
Yeah.
can't make a decision.
the guidance from
It
the,
makes no sense.
right, the guidance from the state, from the health department changed. So the way we have as administrators said it's difficult to operate under orange. And all of you guys that have kids in the elementary school and in the high school have been affected probably by a symptomatic individual that we've had to quarantine for multiple days. So what they're saying is now, because it's symptoms, you don't have to quarantine everybody. The person who's symptomatic has to quarantine and any of their immediate family members, but not the rest of the group. So for us, for the staff, it's been, some of our staff have literally been in and out almost on an every other day basis. Now, until there's a positive, whether it's another staff member or student, they're going to stay in. And yes, it was a very quick and, again, very quiet change.
I just
So,
don't
but
I mean, I get
I know you get it,
6,
yeah.
7, I don't understand the why, and then, as Andy's saying, like, it would make sense if we were February, March, where teachers had gotten vaccinated, coupled with the fact that kids really don't spread it and the transmission is low in school, that would kind of make sense, but just, the teachers aren't vaccinated yet, so I don't understand.
Where's the chances of it backfiring on us? It's more around.
Listen, I flavor the board. I mean, we're fine with enforcing, you know.
So my question is, what does that mean for us legally, since this is from the health department and that's their decision? So if you quarantine, because you're saying, well, we're not gonna follow what the health department says, basically, that you can do, where are we legally with the fight of a parent or a staff member or whoever saying, well, the health department says, I don't have to do this. Like, where do we stand that way? I mean, can we be liable in that respect? And my observation of it, I think, why would they change this? But whatever. But in the same respect, when we test positive and you get the call, if this is a recommendation as extra precaution because we are following all the social distancing, we are following the masking, we are following that. So in my thought, the reason they would do this to make it easier to keep schools open because the risk is minimal because we are following everything we're supposed
Right.
to.
So-
That's my thinking behind it, but
Right.
my question is legally, where do we stand if there's a fight?
Well, we have our attorney. Maybe he'd like to take a crack and answer that question.
I think the question I was actually expecting to hear was, you know, if we don't follow the state guidelines and people get sick, right, what's the liability there? And that's why it's important to at least follow the state guidelines. I think that the board would have discretion if it wanted to go a little bit further than the state guidelines. I don't mean anything radical, but if you wanted to go a little further, I don't think that you would be facing any legal liability by being safer by going a little further. But I think it's a decision. You now have the freedom and the ability under the new guidance to change the way you're doing things a little bit. And again, to me, as long as you're at least following the guidance, then you're in good shape.
Yeah, so we would just be doing above and beyond the guidance is what it comes down to by having that test. You know, we're not disregarding the guidance, we're just adding another step in to ensure safety. I think that'd be a tough legal battle for anybody.
I feel like the rapid test gives us a way of something.
Right.
It's not a whole lot of money on gas.
So if the board is okay, then we'll make
What is
that.
everybody else's feelings?
I like the idea of leaving up to all the professionals at school to make that call. You know, whether we need to quarantine our jobs or not.
I will just make a comment. Operating, when we moved to Orange, we did not move our 4th through 8th grade teachers. It went over like a lead balloon because of somebody having a symptom, and just like one student getting a symptom and moving through, shutting down 6th, 7th, and 8th grade like that. This move, this slight change, makes us keep our doors open so many more days. So if we like in-person instruction, this little move, and I have 100% confidence in the staff at Belvidere Elementary School and 100% confidence in Sue March. We've been doing a good job. Things have been going very well. Kids are in school. We tailor it back. It is a huge disruption to daily education, and the wheels don't even wobble before they fall off. We went from having one classroom quarantine to only having 2 come in, which made us have to shut down because of that way we operated. We take temperatures at every single entrance. We are on top of the COVID form reminders go out relentlessly. Hopefully they were nauseam at some point. But I would say with the cooperation of the community and what we're doing in the school, I say we stay course because we keep kids in school. That's just my opinion.
That's the goal. The goal is to keep the kids in school. Like, the rapid tests are a way to try and make sure that we don't end up closing for 2 weeks. Because we got one kid over 3 days, he tests positive, and then another kid pops up from the other side of the school, and now we're closed for 2 weeks.
We've had 0 positive tests, thank goodness, at Oxford Street with students.
We've been lucky.
We've been lucky, but I'm going to say lucky, but we've been following procedure, protocol, social distancing, masking, temperatures, cleaning. We have gone above and beyond. Like I listened to the news, I said, what we need to do to reopen our schools. Our teachers came back from day 1. We've been open 5 days a week. So I say do not scale it back, in my opinion, because we've done a fantastic job keeping our kids.
I agree 100%. The goal isn't to scale it back. The goal is to just throw an additional level of protection we blame the kids.
And I'll tell you, if you guys follow even at the front of the school, how it's changed, where we upped it by taking temperature. We've always taken the next step. We've changed classrooms when kids would come back. We're in a good spot. That's all I'm saying. And the thing is, we want to keep kids in school. That's my goal. Follow the existing guidelines. That's it. That's my opinion.
Brian, Jen, do you guys have an opinion on this?
I had a hard time hearing a lot of it. I think it's just basically they're following the guidelines, right? We're in orange, and the change happens with, symptoms. If there's symptoms, only the child moves, right? It's not the whole class. That's what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. No, I don't have any questions.
Brian?
I don't have anything else.
I think Doc and Bob were the only two that didn't.
I think we follow the guidelines of the health department.
I don't see how you could force a family to go have a rapid test, especially with the $160 some dollars out of pocket, even if you're gonna reimburse them. I'm gonna tell you, there's people who can't go in there and put $165 down and wait for a check from the school and you're catching.
I think it's a
I don't
moot
see how
point.
you can force them to do that. I don't think you can, saying that it's, especially for whether or not you're going to quarantine class or something. I don't see the logic, the logistics behind actually being able to enforce, you have to go do this today, and it has to be rapid, and you have to pay that, and we're doing that.
We can't force parents to do it. We can't force parents to get a rapid test for their kid.
I can barely hear you.
So we can't force a parent to take the kid and get a rapid test. What we can do is offer paperwork. And for most parents, just for peace of mind, they're going to do it. Or I feel like most parents are going to do it, knowing what they are. Because the reality is they aren't doing it for that bad. Well, they're doing it for that benefit, but they're doing it for us too. I mean, I'm not. The theory here is just an additional measure to try and keep it safe. It's not to close the doors. It's not to send the kids home. It's so that kid with symptoms gets a rapid test, negative. Everybody feels a little more comfortable and life is good. Kid gets a positive test, now we quarantine the classroom, and we wait for the 3 days. I don't see a downside.
We have had a case where we went for the rapid test and it's recommended by the county epidemiologist, she would know her name.
Yeah, Courtney.
Wait for the
Yeah.
whatever the other test is called. So we would wait because there are tons of, it's 50-50 in my opinion at best.
Yeah.
So, and the two tests were totally different and we're glad we took their advice.
In this case, we don't have to. In this case, the only reason we're taking a rapid test is to make a decision about the next 2 days, not to make a decision based on a positive or negative test that we get 2 days later.
I make a motion that we take a vote to see whether we want to do the rapid test or we just want to follow the guidelines.
Okay. Motion and a second to vote for, we have to vote one way or the other, so we'll vote to follow the guidelines and not do the rapid test.
Right.
And we will yes or no on that.
Right.
So motion and a second.
Motion.
Second? Second. Okay, all in favor of following the guidelines and not administering the test? That would be an aye. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No, nay, whatever, yeah. And abstentions? Okay, so we will not do the rapid test, we're gonna follow the county guidelines.
Okay.
Okay, I guess then my follow-up would be, how do we count on informing parents of change?
We will update the plan on our website tomorrow, and we'll do an all-call tomorrow afternoon.
What else do we have to continue in business?
Do we have an orientation for freshman seminar?
Do we have an orientation for, specifically for freshman seminar?
I spoke with a parent who ended up sending their kid to Warren Tech because they had a virtual orientation and we did not, so they weren't really sure what we offered versus what Warren Tech offered.
So you mean an overall freshman? Not, we have a class freshman seminar, so that's why I asked the question.
Yeah,
We normally do our orientation. We did a virtual orientation this year, yes?
I
Virtual orientation for freshmen then, that came in this year, yes or no?
Oh, yeah, we did it in person, actually. They came in right before the beginning of school. And it was, we had to put in.
Okay, so Warren, and you're saying Warren Tech probably did it virtually in the spring?
Now.
Right.
Reaching out to the 8th grade.
Coming
right
in,
now for
incoming
next year.
freshmen.
Right, the 8th grade, we have not determined how we're going to do that yet.
Oh, okay,
We'll do
so,
something.
so
But we
that's-
have not determined if we're going to do it virtual or we're going to try to
well,
bring
I'm
it in
saying,
somehow.
I'm saying we lost one student already. Because it,
That child can apply to go there, but we haven't lost that student until that student is a freshman walking through the door.
okay, well, the parent told me that they saw an orientation, 8th grade, and that they're gonna send their child to Warren Tech. So all I wanna know is if we can get on
Yes.
some sort of virtual orientation, in-person orientation, whatever it is,
Yes.
because Warren Tech's already on top of it and reaching out to our kids.
Well, I'm glad they're on that.
We can do that.
They're not on education. I have a student.
I would suggest if we compared ourselves to how many days we've been in school compared to Warren Tech, we would come way ahead.
I'm sorry, Catherine, I just don't think that anybody could be fair decision to go to one tech unless they see what we do. And I have kids in both, and Warren Tech is excellent for my one student, but how we have handled this situation, parents need to look at that.
Oh, I'm not,
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying.
Being
that
an eighth grade teacher,
yes,
sending district,
but you can't say
Belvidere
that
always
child
does a great
lost.
job with orientation, so, as Tom said, they're not in Warren Tech until they actually walk through the door,
Yeah.
they change their mind on the
No,
time.
Yeah.
So if they see Belvidere's presentation and want to change, this is the public school they attend, so. I know it may not jive with theirs, but Belvidere always does do a fantastic job with.
yeah, no, I just wanna be on top of this, so that we don't lose any more kids, that's all I'm saying. I don't
Just
care.
saying, please do one.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
We will have it done.
That's it.
What else for continuing?
I had a couple
ahead.
other questions. Room 208 doesn't have heat in it still?
208, doesn't have heat in it?
Mrs. Singh's homeroom, or Mrs. Zekas' homeroom and Mrs. Singh's room?
We'll look at that tomorrow.
Just talking about all this expensive stuff, but we don't have heat.
Let's give the kids spread the virus.
Okay.
That's true.
Room 208?
208, Miss Zekas and Miss Singh's room.
And while we're on that, there's a performance desk and there's a lot of paint peeling up here that needs to be addressed.
Upgrades to the media center.
She's doing to the paint what I used to do that picture hanging back there. Drove me crazy.
Love that picture.
I hate that picture.
It's huge.
Yeah.
The new architect, will they be doing, or will they be handling grant writing?
No, we
No.
were gonna, Chris, and he left. Chris Carapinas was supposed to be setting up that, with that lady for the grant writing.
I'll remind him tomorrow.
Reminding me he's supposed to be doing that.
I will do that.
We're missing out on a lot with this. We're missing out on a lot.
He was supposed to set that up.
I'll talk to him about it tomorrow.
I'm sorry, Catherine, I missed what you said.
Grant writing.
Need to be on top of that.
Yep.
Missing a lot out. And then, the town council sent that letter. Do we wanna pick the two members that are gonna do that?
One member, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
you-
I talked to Mayor, I sat with Mayor Kennedy on, Don Mitchell on Friday. We agreed it'd be myself and one member.
Okay,
So whoever wants to be.
Any volunteers to be, you should tell them what it is.
Yeah, you're going to be a liaison with myself, Kathy left, with Kathy Myers and Don Mitchell to just overall discuss the board, town council relationship with a focus on finance. I don't know how often we're going to meet or what the meeting's going to be like.
Somebody said it like once a month.
Once a month,
I
yeah.
don't know if that was the mayor, I don't know if that was you, but I
Yeah,
heard that
I
somewhere.
think that's what the mayor is envisioning.
Do we have a volunteer?
I can tell you that Mayor Kennedy specifically asked for Miss Williams, so I figured, I actually spoke for you, Mrs. Williams. I said it'd probably be better as a Belvidere resident.
You want to volunteer? Catherine would like to volunteer.
Okay, I
Sit
will,
down there.
I will let Mr. Mitchell know that Ms. Pell and myself will represent the board.
Good job. I was hoping you would.
Me too.
What else do you have?
Oh.
Chris, grant writing, remember we were gonna have that person, you were gonna get that information on the grant writing? Okay, you can just forward that and we can get that ball rolling? Thank you.
I have a few.
Yeah, he was foundation.
Oh, use foundation.
Oh, yeah, he was. I thought grant writing or foundation more. Didn't you have? No, maybe not.
All right, we'll look at, we'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll figure it out.
I have a couple if nobody else has any.
Is there any updates on where we are with last year's trips and vouchers and all that stuff?
Excellent question. We are, Mr. Crute and I spoke about this, I think, last week. What's that? Yeah. There's at least one class action suit that is against EF Tours, and I think Mr. Crute and I had talked about there's a possibility that it was in Massachusetts that New Jersey may have a similar one, and we would jump on that.
Did we jump on that, or did the parents jump on that?
It can go either way. It'd be easier if the school did it so we can represent them.
I didn't know if that was something
Yeah.
that you did or they did.
Yeah. There's one parent that has certainly brought that issue up quite a bit. I have been in contact with that parent quite often, so rest assured.
Was that to get the full money back?
To get the full money back. Right now, they got either a voucher or they got a refund minus $500. The way and correct me if I'm wrong, John, the way the lawsuit settled in Massachusetts, they got the full refund. And then obviously we're going to look to apply that to this year's students also that we're planning on going, that were carried over, that will likely graduate out, and see if that'll apply to them as well.
Yeah, because the vouchers are only good for this year.
Correct.
So if
Yep.
travel doesn't open,
Yeah.
then those kids that are even still seniors this year
Correct.
will still get
Right.
involved in it.
Yeah.
Pay insurance for a reason.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
The senior trip, I'm sorry.
About this year's.
I think he said it was senior, we're looking at prom, but the trip is canceled, right?
We have not officially canceled the senior trip yet. I don't think we're going to wind up going, but we haven't. We usually go in June to Florida. Yeah. I would say it'd be a stretch to think we're going to be able to pull that off, but we haven't really canceled it yet.
Something will happen.
Something, we'll do something.
There will be something.
Yeah.
When is the trip?
We usually do it the week before graduation-ish, so we're going to graduate on the 16th. It'd probably be not the right weekend before, but
When do you have to decide if you apply?
I don't know. I would think we can probably hold off at least until early April, I would guess, to make a full decision on that.
So then, hopefully, maybe things change by then?
That's our goal, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we absolutely plan on having a prom. You know, we're going to look at venues to make sure that they have the ability to do it outside if things don't change. We've traditionally gone to the Stroudmoor. For those of you that have been there, know there's plenty of room outside that they can probably help us out. We are going to do our best for the class of 2021, specifically to make it as normal of a finish to their high school careers as we can. I'll go off on a tangent like I don't normally do. I have a son who's in the class of 2021, and I really think that, no offense to the class of 2020, the class of 2021 has gotten hurt worse with what they've been able to and not be able to do. So we can, Ms. Lazare, Dr. Lazare and I have talked about this already. If we can have as normal of a finish, we will. So that's our goal. Ms. Williams, as far as the other students, the Europe trip is obviously not going to go off this year, but there were students who were planning on using their vouchers from last year for this year. So we're going to make sure that we're going to hope to make sure that they get their money back as well.
Anything else? Okay, I have one.
Sure, fire away.
I just want to follow up on room 208. Apparently, the heat has been fixed and there is heat in that classroom. So hopefully, all's okay.
Still not working, I guess. Okay, well, we can talk about that tomorrow.
We'll send Shelley tomorrow. She's always cold, so if she finds it to not be cold, then we'll know that it's not cold. How's that?
Well, that's where it just were, right? We just
It
had
has
for a
to
couple
be
hours.
like in the.
That's true.
50s. It has to be in the 40s or 50s.
I mean, we just met in there for a couple hours.
Oh, that was the room we were just
Yeah.
in? Yeah. Oh, there's heat in that room. I just got out
No,
of that
this
room.
is the second room of the town staff.
Yeah. Right up top. Right up top.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
208.
that's not Mrs. Zekis' room then?
I'm
208.
sorry, it's the
Yeah.
second, it's the.
Mrs. Singh's room.
Mrs. Singh's room,
Yeah.
correct. Gotcha.
Okay, check that one.
Check that one out.
Okay.
Okay. I have brought this up many times, and I refuse to set at another meeting with this microphone that I can't even hear Andy say something. The people can hear nothing. The video gets no volume on it at all. Before the next meeting, can we please get a new microphone?
Absolutely.
I don't
Matt,
care
you hear
what
that
we have to
request?
do.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
It'll be my last act.
There you go. Be your last action as tech guy.
Thank God. Just two other things real quick. All the committees met and voted with, or picked their chair with the exception of personnel. So as soon as personnel picks a chair, I'll send out the list of chairs. So if anybody has items for that committee, you know who to contact.
Right. Personnel will be meeting Wednesday evening.
Correct. So after
Okay.
that, I'll send out the list. The only other thing I have is Catherine and I have a conference call along with you and, not Shelley, but I guess you, tomorrow night with a presentation from somebody in the state of New Jersey who's going to give us a presentation on regionalization. We're also having White, Hope, and Harmony will all be on the phone call. So we'll let you know
can be
how
on
that
that if you
goes
want
and
to,
what
by
this
the way.
guy says after that tomorrow night.
I didn't think so. I invited Shelley, I don't think she was.
That's, yeah. And that's all I have. Anybody have anything else? Okay. Public participation, we have an executive session scheduled, but there'll be no action taken when we come back.
Correct. That is correct.
All right.
Do you want
Public participation?
her to read that letter now?
Yes.
Oh, no.
What?
I have
Wait, we gotta go into public participation first.
Okay.
So we're
No.
not gonna take action in after executive session. So we'll do public participation now, and then the public is free to leave.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So public participation, does anybody from the audience have anything they want to say? No. You
I
did
have
receive a letter.
correspondence that I should have addressed earlier. The board received correspondence from an individual that was an applicant for a position here. It has been referred to the personnel committee. Just wanted that to be said.
Okay. Do you have any other?
I have no other.
Okay. So at this point, can I get a motion in a second to go into executive session to discuss litigation and negotiations?
We'll do litigation first, so those that are conflicted can yep.
Motion, did somebody say motion? Second? Second. All right. We're going into executive session, y'all can go on if you want.